The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. The ongoing invasion of Russia in Ukraine presents new challenges in global food security. How is this going to affect the Philippines? Camille Samonte tells us in this report.
The ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia has heavily impacted the global market. Now, it also poses a threat to the country's food security. With the consecutive oil price hikes, the Agriculture Department said record high fuel prices will curtail not only the logistics, but also the processing of agricultural products in the country.
Number 2 supplier ng oil ang Russia sa buong mundo. Naramdam naman natin ngayon na patuloy na tumataas ang presyo ng gasolina at ang gasolina ay importante sa bukirin at importante rin sa movement, sa logistics ng ating agricultural products at doon mismo rin sa processing nito.
Aside from these, both Russia and Ukraine are two of the main sources of grain, fertilizer, and energy globally. In fact, Russia is a major exporter of fertilizers, which are essential for farmers to hit their production targets for crops. With this, the government is now coordinating with the ASEAN countries to ensure enough supply. The DA is also eyeing to increase the local supply of fertilizers as an alternative.
Patuloy yung pakikipag-ugnayan natin una doon sa ating mga bilateral talks sa iba-ibang bansa. Pangalawa, yung konsepto ng balanced fertilization, yung mix ng inorganic, organic at saka biostimulants ay matagal na naman itong sinisimulan at pinapalakas na lang ng department.
The government has allotted 20 billion pesos for the Plant program that aims to boost local food production. As for the rice supply, the DA assured the public that the country still has enough. He added that over 20 million metric tons of rice will be produced by the end of 2022. With this, some 3.5 million metric tons will be in the ending inventory that will last for 96 days. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
At least 6 presidential aspirants have so far given their written commitment to participate in the debates organized by the COMELEC. Spokesperson James Jimenez posted on Twitter a list of those who have confirmed their participation as of around 1 p.m. on Sunday. They are Ernesto Abella, Leody de Guzman, Isko Moreno, Norberto Gonzales, Ping Lacson, and Manny Pacquiao. Faisal Magundato, Jose Montemayor, and Lenny Robredo have yet to send their letter but have verbally pledged to attend. Ferdinand Marcos Jr., meanwhile, has not confirmed his attendance, either verbally or in writing. We'll be back with more stories after a quick break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Some workers in the United States are clinging to work-from-home arrangements, not out of fear of COVID, but because they'd like to maintain their work-life balance. Let's watch this.
What's keeping Americans at home for work, but still venturing out to do other things?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. And that was our observation we thought was interesting. When you look at the data, people are going back to restaurants, they're traveling, they're filling sports stadiums, they're packing movie theaters. But according to our data, they're only going back to the office at 38% of pre-pandemic levels when you look at a national average. I think it really is, it's been 2 years into the pandemic, and people have developed new rhythms and habits. And it's hard to break those after this long a period of time. So that's part of it. And then secondly, there is a set of people who have decided that they like this new way of working. And frankly, it has not been easy for employers to be tough and impose it on people to come back.
And yet you say in your column, Mark, that companies should be sort of prioritizing this a little bit more. Can you just dig into that argument? Because on the flip side of things, some people, this is a tight market where, people can take whatever job offers them the best flexibility. So why encourage companies to do that?
Well, look, I think a lot of business leaders have said they really want their people back in the office. You're starting to see people put stakes in the ground. A lot of Wall Street firms and banks are doing that. Even some tech firms are doing it. And I think the reason business leaders want their people back is because there is no replacement for being in person with your teams to collaborate, to get the most out of the dynamic that happens when you're all together, first of all. Secondly, it's very hard to onboard people. And I was talking to a CEO of a company who said, I've hired 10,000 people in the last 2 years and they've never seen each other. It's very hard to onboard them. And lastly, for the individuals themselves, there's so much mentoring that happens in person. And I would just say, and I thought about my own career, every single magical moment in my career where someone took me under their wing and taught me an important lesson was done in person. They called me in their office, we had a chat, and they taught me something. And I just think that it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to create that same dynamic when you're working remotely.
Do you think there are any sectors, though, Mark, that might keep this sort of flexibility? And what do you think those are? And on the flip side of things, what sectors do you think will return back to the way things were pretty soon?
Yeah, well, first of all, we definitely do not think there is a one-size-fits-all model. I think there's room for everyone to develop their own models. And we're not even saying you have to be back all the time. We're saying get back some of the time, even if you don't want to bring your teams back all of the time, and then see what happens. Our bet is once people are back more often, they may not be back in the office 100% of the time, but they'll realize the benefits of it, and people will start coming back. Look, I think you can see in financial services and on Wall Street, they've been amongst the leaders in really forcing people to get back, because I think they recognize all the things that I just talked about, the power of collaboration and mentorship. And I think that there's other functions and even functions within Wall Street firms. I was talking to Jamie Dimon last week, and he even has functions inside JP Morgan that may be permanently remote. So I think it is really finding the right solution, but not being afraid to lean in to have your people back in the office.
Yeah, and it seems like, too, as the weather gets better, as people get more comfortable, if they are doing things like going out to eat, going to see their friends again, maybe they'll want to venture back into the office, right?
Yeah, well, that's what's happening. And I think that was a revelation a little bit for business leaders, is that people are saying, I don't want to come back in the office because I'm afraid of getting COVID. But Meanwhile, the same people are going out to eat.
Right.
Time now for a quick look at today's other top stories. Less than half of the 1.8 million target for the 4th national vaccination drive was achieved after the first 2 days of inoculation. Health Undersecretary Mirna Cabutaje says only around 836,000 individuals received their COVID-19 jabs over the weekend. Around 3,000 OFWs who had been stranded for several months for deployment are finally bound for Taiwan. And this comes after both the Philippines and Taiwan accepted their documents, including their vaccination certificates. And Filipino pole vaulter EJ Obiena will miss the 2022 IAAF World Athletics Indoor Championships in Belgrade, Serbia, after failing to get an endorsement from the PATAFA. Obiena, who is currently world number 5, says he's the only top-ranked vaulter who will not be joining the competition. For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. Do visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. And you can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We're One News.